Bobby Shoemaker, Andrew Calvano. It's Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, March 18th. 4 races on the docket as always. We've got 2 at Oaklawn Park, one of which is the Rebel. We've got 1 more at Gulfstream and 1 at Santa Anita. In fact, we're going to start the great race place this week, Andrew. It's Santa Anita Race 8. It's 6.5 furlongs down the hill. It's an allowance optional claimer. $60,000 on the line. 4-year-olds and up. It's a field of 10. And Hunt, the 8-horse, is your 5-2 morning line favorite. Break this race down for us, Andrew, and tell me if you think the 8-horse is indeed the horse to beat.
Without a doubt, Bobby. And number 8, Hunt, is coming in for some top connections with Phil D'Amato, who's just absolutely superb on the turf. The downhill turf. And then you got Flavian Pratt aboard, so what more can you ask for? Definitely going to be tough to beat, but I think there's a few horses that could take a stab at him. My particular selection in this race was number 9, Hawkenden, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. The reason I'm looking at him, 7 starts, 3 wins, and 3 seconds over the downhill course. Moving up in class today, but he won last out, second off a 3.5-month layoff, and obviously you always want to see horses improving there, so I think the trainer believes this horse is in a great position to move up in class. The jockey switch from Rafael Bejarano to Santiago Gonzalez is okay with me because both of them are excellent jockeys on the West Coast circuit. I'm seeing 87 buyers from the last 2 races on my end, Bobby. I don't know what you're seeing on your end, but to me that matches up just exactly with the number 8 horse Hunt, your 5-2 favorite. I think this horse is perfectly drawn outside and is going to close off pace with your favorite. And hopefully he takes a couple extra steps off him today.
Certainly improving from a time form USB figure. You cannot argue third off the layoff. 110 off the layoff, 111 in his last start with the victory. Wanted to ask you the pace scenario. In a race like this going down the hill, it's very unique. Horses tend to, for the most part, in a race like this where the talent is evenly distributed, to be a major factor. Horses tend to do well up close or on the lead. How many horses do you see going to the lead, and how far in the lead do you see the 8-horse Hunt?
Well, as far as speed goes, Bobby, I was looking at number 6, Stormy Liberal, for Rafael Bejarano and Doug O'Neill. I think that's going to be the main speed, although he really hasn't been exactly on the front end in his last 2 starts. If you look back at previous races, that's where he's going to be, and that's where the horse can win the race if he's on the front end. Also saw some speed coming in from number 1, Chips All In. But Bobby, as you know, the downhill turf course does not play to horses that are pinned on the rail.
No.
So as far as speed goes, if I'm looking for that horse, I would have to go for number 6, Stormy Liberal.
Well, I did not have a strong opinion about this race, and I thought that there were a ton of horses that either had been on the lead previously or I thought maybe wanted to be on the lead at this juncture considering the last couple of races that they run. You know my philosophy with races in which I don't have a strong opinion. I'm not going to settle with a horse that's a short price. I'm going to go with a longer price horse. And with that being said, I landed on the 2 horse at 12-1. Now I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this name, but here's the reason I landed on this horse. I think this horse may be a horse for the course. 6.5 furlongs at Santa Anita going down the hill is certainly a unique situation. We don't see other racetracks at this distance like this. And if you go back to the October 18th start from the 2 horse, in which it drew the 9 post at that time with James Graham aboard, who honestly struggled at Santa Anita, which is why he's back at the fairgrounds, wins at 9-1. I watched the video today after looking at the past performances, was very impressive. The concern is obviously the hole, the post. And I know this horse is going to come from off of it. Drayden Van Dyke is struggling, but if he can work out a good trip in a race in which I think there is a lot of speed, I think he could be a major player. I think Hunt, the 8-horse, is a very beatable favorite. I think your horse is a player. Another horse that I looked at that I almost pulled the trigger on that is going to be in all exotics, and I'm actually going to use in an exacta, is the 5-horse Bluegrass Bronco. If you go back to September 26th, 1:16 time form U.S. speed figure, wire to wire. In fact, Andrew, it's the most impressive race of any horse in this field, in my opinion. Then the next start goes off at 2-1, deals with adversity early with a bump start. Some horses just don't like that. Once they have any type of adversity, they quit. He loses by 12. In the last race, he almost fell on his face. Martin Pedrosa falls off the horse, and the rest is history. This horse should not be 12-1. Neither should my horse. So I'm going to go with my horse, the 2 and the 5, 2-5 again, and all the last part of that trifecta. I just went with the 2 because I think he's in quote unquote better form, if you will. The second off the layoff, you can throw the last start out. So with a good trip, I think the 2 could be a major player, and off the layoff, I think the 5 is a player as well. I'm not going to bet anything to win here, but either the 2 or the 5 at those prices could give you a leg up in any type of tournament that you're playing in.
Without a doubt, Bobby. And when you bring up Bluegrass Bronco, it's really a shame to see horses who are improving. Like I said, if you look back at that September 26th race, you see he goes wire to wire, very impressive. Like you said, he posts incredible numbers, comes back, bumped around, beaten favorite. So you want to toss that race, and you want to look for him in his next race. He comes back in that race, falls to his face.
Right.
Unfortunately, nothing you can do that day from a wagering standpoint. So now he comes back today. So, people looking at the form, a lot of people want to give him another chance, but some people are going to throw him out just because the horse, fell to his face. Not only was he coming in off a layoff in that race, but now he's coming in off another layoff.
Right.
So a bunch of people may be afraid of that. But, Bob, if he runs back to that September 26th race, like you said, he's definitely going to be a major contender on the front end.
Yeah, no doubt. I just went with the 2 because I liked that last race going down the hill, and I liked second off the layoff. I think that the first race was not necessarily a prep for this, and let's face it, they threw him into deep waters off a 107-day layoff right into a $100,000 stakes race. So I'm going to give the 2 horse a big look here, and just hopefully Drayden Van Dyke can have one of his better rides because he's certainly struggling. So we're going to move on to Hollandale Beach. It's Gulfstream Park Race 12. It's a 7-furlong event, the Grade 2 Insider Information. It's a field of 10. Another good betting race if you can get past the favorite at 8-5. Certainly, I think the horse to beat. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, without a doubt, Bobby. And Stone Tastic is definitely going to be your favorite in today's race. And wouldn't be surprised if you get him at lower than 8-5. But my only problem with the horse is that don't get me wrong, great horse, and what he showed last out was absolutely ultra impressive. But just have a strong feeling that he's going to be contested today, and I just don't know how he's going to take to that. I don't know if he has the class for that. But Bobby, he is 100% the horse to beat. I was on Stone Tastic, but the horse I went to next was number 5, Best Behavior, for with Johnny Velazquez and Marty Wolfson. What I saw in this horse, he cuts back to a sprint after trying out a mile and a 16th, and he was involved in that race. He was a 8-5 there, got bet at the Grade 2 Royal Delta, so obviously the public likes him. Trainer had a lot of confidence in him, but he's dropping a little bit in class today, or maybe finds an easier spot, but he already beat the favorite 2 back. He's fired 3 bullet drills since his last out, and only twice out of the money here at Gulfstream Park, and has the graded stakes experience. The thing is, with me in the 8, like I said, I just don't know if she has the graded stakes experience. I know she finished second in the Sugar Swirl, but it's going to be a tough race. But I definitely think 8 and 5 are your major contenders, and that's honestly how I see the race.
I think Stone Tastic is much the horse to beat, but I'm not going to settle picking an 8-5 shot on Tournament Talk. That's not why we're here. And I think if there's a race in which she's going to really have to work, it's today. I think that there's a lot of horses that want to be on the lead, including her. And if she wins this race, she certainly is going to get a tip of the cap from me because she's going to have to earn it from the onslaught. And she draws a post draw in which if there's a lot of speed to the inside of her, Andrew, she's going to be wide in the first turn. So if you're on the 5 Best Behavior, I am as well. That was my top selection. Yeah. And I think 5-1 is a good price. So the notes that I have here, if you were to go back to the start December 26th in which she beat Stone Tastic, she set right off the pace and she turned for home. She won going away. And if we're going to win today, we're going to need the right trip, but I'll trust Johnny V to give us that trip. And if there is a lot of speed, as I think it will be, again, Stonetastic may have to earn it. I think she may be compromised. I'm looking for best behavior to pass her late. I guess the critics of our selection is going to say this. Your horse doesn't win if Stonetastic doesn't have trouble early in the race. And maybe that's the case. But I think that race was a little bit different, in which there wasn't as much speed that day as there is today on paper. So I guess since we're both on the same horse, I'll play devil's advocate here for a second and say, why didn't you land on a horse like Bar Gold, who seems to be, running very well and consistently in the money? Or is there another horse that you would look to pull an upset besides our top pick?
Yeah, when I looked at Bar Gold, Bobby, I didn't know if I could trust the trainer off this long layoff, but definitely has a lot of class, losing to Cavorting twice in a row in the test and Power Assist. The Raven Run runs second to Sarah Sis as the beaten favorite, so you have to respect it. But Bobby, the layoff it scares me just a little too much in this spot. If I'm looking for an upset to go around, I might look to the rail for Dale Romans, like number 1 here, in Gadge and Jiggly, if I'm pronouncing it anywhere close, right. Bobby. But the horse is definitely improving. He's definitely been running in the money often here for sharp allowance. Optional Claim and Company, and off the pace, if there is a lot of speed, maybe this is our horse, Bob.
Sure,
but like I said, I just don't know if I can trust the 6 coming off that layoff.
I agree, and I think in the end we're on the right horse, and here's why. If Stonetastic is the horse that she appears to be on paper, she wins the race at 6-5, and no harm, no foul. If we're right and there is a lot of pace, I think this is the quote-unquote second best horse in the race, if you will, and then we're on the right horse and we move on to the next race with a winner. So Andrew and I are both on best behavior, 5-1 morning line, Johnny V aboard. So moving on to Oaklawn Park, and Andrew, what is a fantastic Oaklawn Park card on Saturday. It's always about building races around your feature race, which is the Rebel, which we'll get to next, and they've certainly done a really good job at that. So it's the Grade 3 Razorback. It's race 8 on the card. It's 1 mile and 1/16 on the dirt for 4-year-olds and up. It's a field of 10, and a lot of horses that we were familiar with last year, one of which is Upstart, the 7 horse, and he's your 5-2 vulnerable morning line favorite.
Yeah, Bobby, and definitely saw it the same way with Upstart. Definitely didn't want any part of him coming off a layoff. And like you said, I just think overall he's a vulnerable favorite. To that extent, I went over right to his inside with number 6, far right, listed at 3-1 morning line. Ramoquette and Irad Ortiz. Very interesting that Irad ships down here. Granted, Aqueduct doesn't really have a strong card this Saturday, but still, out of all the places you would expect Irad to go, I don't know if Oaklawn would be the first for this trainer especially, but I like it. I'm with it. Definitely think Irad, ranks supreme over a bunch of the jockeys listed in here. But the trainer obviously wants more out of this horse and definitely wants him to get back into the company he was running with last year. As you can see, last year he was on the Kentucky Derby path and had some disappointing starts in the Ohio and Indiana Derby. So he comes back January 28th of this year after his last race, July 18th. Finishes second by half a length. If you watch the replay, this horse is driving. Now note that race was only 1 mile as compared to the mile 16th today. And I think in that race, should he have had the extra 16th of a mile, he wins that race by a length or two, without a doubt. But then he comes back February 25th, gets the mile and a 16th, and just necks out the just necks out to win there, finishing over Abraham. So it's obvious that the trainer wants to get this horse back to where he was last year, and I think it's just a perfect spot with a vulnerable favorite. Horse obviously has some class. He's going to sit right off the pace and should be a winner.
Yeah, to upstart quickly, I really thought this horse had a bright future at Gulfstream Park last winter. And I know that the Gulfstream Park numbers, Andrew, certainly can be inflated, and they don't translate to other racetracks, specifically this time of year. But I never thought he was a Derby horse, but I thought he had a bright future winning races like this. But from what I saw out of him, in the Haskell, and I get he's against American Pharoah, but he was non-competitive. The Travers Stakes, I understand that he was only beat 5.5 lengths, but you could look on television. That horse never looked like he had a chance. And then in the Pennsylvania Derby, where he goes off 7-2 against his friends, if you will, against horses that you could say you give him a shot against, he loses by 12.25, and now he's coming off a 182-day layoff. I get it's class, but as I've said to you and others on this show many times, they don't know what they're running for, and this horse just does not look like the same horse visually and statistically that he looked like last winter. Therefore, I just think he's done, and I think he's going to run poorly again, and I think eventually they're just going to have to hang this horse up and put him on the shelf for good, because I think Upstart is not the same horse as he used to be. With that being said, I think your horse should be the favorite. I think your horse, Far Right, will probably go off the favorite. It's certainly the horse to beat. I ended up landing on a horse that I know is going to be forwardly placed, that might be compromised by speed at the end, but I've been a huge fan of this horse since last summer, and that's the 4-horse Shotgun Cowboy. The race that sticks out to me, Andrew, is the September 27th race at Remington Park. He ran a very fast race. Numbers for that level you would not think would hold. It did hold. He wins the race. He then runs another race at Remington Park where he was a man amongst boys. He wins that one going away. They put him in the Clark handicap where he runs against horses like FNX, who would win this race by 9, against Opportunity, who I know has his faults, but probably would beat anything in this field, and loses by 6. So over his head there, he gets a trainer change. Second off the layoff, throw the last race out. This horse is a warrior. I think he's a poor man's Valid. I think he goes to the lead and forces something to come get him, and he's a grinder, and he does not like to lose races. I think he's in a field in which he can win. I think he'll pay a nice price, and I think they'll have to come get him. So I'm going to roll with the 4-horse at 6-1, who I think will be an overlay, and that's Shotgun Cowboy.
Yeah, without a doubt, Bobby. And Shotgun Cowboy was actually my second selection in this race. I just immediately threw at that 6-furlong race, his last down February 20th. Obviously doesn't want that distance.
Right.
He's best suited to go longer, so I tossed that one right out. He comes back today. And like you said, the Clark handicap, just look who he's running against, FNX, Opportunity. I mean, those are some really high-class horses, Bob. So he comes back today, a softer spot, if you will, and definitely has the looks of some speed, and definitely can steal this race should he be alone on the front end.
The key horse, Andrew, I don't mean to cut you off, but the key horse with Shotgun Cowboy is the 3-horse Carve. The Carve has shown some speed in the past that is comparable to Shotgun Cowboy. If those two go to the lead and they run similar numbers from a time perspective, they could compromise each other and set something up from off the pace, whether it be your horse or something else. I wanted your thoughts on Carve, but you can finish the point that you were going to make before I cut you off.
No, Bob, and yeah, that's like I said, just wanted to point out that Oklahoma Derby back on September 27th, if I do recall, that horse was something 15, 20 to 1 morning line.
Right.
And it gets bet down near 5-2 and crushes them and wire to wire. So I mean, obviously, whoever knew that night, whatever, but this horse definitely is something special, Bob. Right. Going into number 3, Carve obviously has some top connections with the top jockey aboard and definitely has some back class. The way I saw Carve running, I thought he was going to be a little too far off the pace for this race. Obviously, prior races show him being closer to the front end. Kind of hoping that doesn't happen today so I can get a better trip for my 2 horses. But definitely going to be involved early on. But, the way I just saw it lined up, I saw him a couple lengths behind Shotgun Cowboy.
Sure. So, Andrew on the 6, Far Right, and I'm on the 4, Shotgun Cowboy. So we'll move on to the feature race of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge this week. It's race 10. It's, again, the Grade 3, Rebel Stakes. It's 1 mile and 1/16. For 3-year-olds, a very large field, a field of 14. And sudden breaking news, who was visually very impressive last time out, draws the 12 post this race, and he's your 3-1 morning line favorite.
Yeah, Bob, and stunning breaking news. Definitely to be respected after what he did in the Grade 3 Southwest last out on February 15th. But I just think he's gone way too far outside with some great horses today, and I just don't think he'll get the perfect trip he's looking for. With that said, I land on number 4, Cupid. So I'm throwing out his first 2 races completely. Obviously, this horse did not want to sprint. He gets back February 7th. He's going to mile 16th, crushes that maiden special weight by 5 1/4. Bob, I have an 88 time. Equibase speed figure here. Whatever that is, time form. Please let me know. Obviously, those numbers are a little bit different. But like I said, he dominated last out. This one was a $900,000 purchase, so obviously, the connections definitely have some faith in this horse. Last out, stumbled very badly, hand-ridden and closed, bullet drill before the ship here. I mean, this horse is ready to go. Number one thing I see in this horse, Bob Baffert has won the Rebel Stakes in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2014, and 2015. Bob Baffert owns the Rebel Stakes, and I'm just kind of hoping we roll again with Cupid.
Well, he got a 101 time form US speed figure last time out in very impressive fashion. I saw this race as being very hot up front early. A lot of the horses that ran in the previous race in which Sudden Breaking News won, which was the Grade 3 Southwest, they're back here, and a lot of them are on the lead. Now, a horse that I almost sided with was the 6 horse Sighting Spring. That horse, right off a 107-day layoff, did most of the dirty work up early in the front, Andrew, and just quit late, and understandably so. Had company from horses like American Dubai and etc. I do think the favorite is going to get a very similar type setup that he got last time out. When I first opened the PPs, Andrew, to look at this race, I was ultra shocked at the low number that Sudden Breaking News got. And I also went to other past performances to see if maybe time form was just wrong about this race. And I think the reason it looks so visually impressive is that you had horses coming off a layoff that were running very fast and faster than they were accustomed to. And from them quitting and him making a decent rally down the lane, it looked like he was running better than what he really was. So I'm with you. I think you throw the horse out. I think he's very beatable. I find that 3-1 morning line not laughable, but I certainly scratch my head considering the odds makers saw the numbers come back and saw the time. So I think he's certainly beatable. I ended up landing on a horse that's certainly stepping up in class, and that's the 1A horse, Mad Tap, who is trained by Steve Asmussen, who's ridden by Corey Nakatani. They have a history together. Corey's acclimated himself at Oaklawn Park this winter. This horse is third off the layoff, third time at Oaklawn Park. His first race off the layoff was a mile and a 16th race in which he was beaten by 4 lengths. It wasn't that bad of an effort, but it was a prep race, I think, for an allowance race next time out because they wanted to see what this horse was made about. I mean, he was a $300,000 purchase. Tappet is his father, and this horse won very impressively. Got a 109 time form US speed figure, so he increased by 10 points, wins by 6. There's nothing from his pedigree that says he cannot go this distance, and I think last race is a sign of what's to come from this horse. I think he'll set a good trip behind the speed. I think he'll make one run, turning for home, and I think this horse will improve off his last effort and win this race impressively and could surplant himself in a 3-year-old prop that, as I mentioned last week, is not that impressive. I like this horse. This is my play of the day. I'm a big fan of the 1A Mad Tap, Steve Asmussen trained, Corey Nakatani aboard.
Yeah, without a doubt, Bob. And like I said, I always handicap before the odds come out just to try to see if I could pick anything up for value. First thing I wrote down was major speed contender, but has the ability to rate top connections, top trainer, top jockey. Windshell thoroughbreds, they're obviously going to have a looking for a big day earlier in the card. And this jockey trainer click at 30%, and that's something that's always beneficial to see. The first note I wrote down is that the Asmussen entry is going to have a huge impact on this race. And Bob, if you going for Mad Tap as well, if you're playing, contest-wise, horizontally speaking, whatever it may be, you're also backed up with Creator, who may not be, as formful as Mad Tap, but Creator looks sound and ready to go after his maiden victory, last out as well. But I think Mad Tap's a huge contender in this race, Bobby, and I think the trip that you're seeing he'll get is definitely one that can help him get to the winner's circle.
Well, Andrew, on the 4 Cupid with Bob Baffert, who, as he mentioned, has just owned this race for almost a decade, and I'm on the 1A Mad Tap. Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. I'm Bobby Shoemaker. That's Andrew Calvano. And until next week, good luck.